It was a Sunday afternoon in October 2018, just another quiet day on Wangetti Beach, Far North Queensland. But for one young woman, a walk with her beloved dog would end in unthinkable tragedy. You're watching CrimeScope with Sam. Make sure you like, share the video, and subscribe to our channel for more update and news like this. On October 21, 2018, Toyah Cordingley, 24, set out for a walk on the isolated stretch of Wangetti Beach, a coastline tucked between the towns of Cairns and Port Douglas. She had her dog with her, a loyal companion named Indy, and nothing seemed amiss. But she never came home. When the hours passed with no word, her family's worry grew into terror. Her father, Toyah Cordingley, refused to wait passively for hope to fade. He went looking for her along the beach, tracing the path she loved, and then he saw something unusual, a small mound of sand, out of place in the wide landscape. He knelt beside it. "I dropped down to my knees," he later told investigators, "and I scooped the sand 3 times, and on the 3rd scoop, there was a foot." He recoiled. He shouted for help. In that moment, he realized his worst nightmare. The young woman he adored was gone, and what he uncovered would shake him and the nation to its core. That mound in the sand was a shallow grave. Underneath lay Toyah, her body concealed by earth. Forensic examination would later describe her injuries as horrifying. Dr. Paul Botterill, the forensic pathologist, told jurors that Toyah had suffered a very deep, some 17 centimeters, wound to her neck. Her chest, fingers, and abdomen also bore signs of trauma. Prosecutors would argue that she might even have been buried alive, or at least shortly before or after she died. That possibility cut deep in the minds of investigators and jurors. Adding to the horror, the young woman's clothes and personal items were missing. She was found wearing only a bikini. Nearly everything else she brought to the beach was gone. And her dog, Indy, she was found tied to a tree about 30 meters from the grave. The image of Indy, tethered and alone, became a devastating symbol of what happened that day. The suspect in this case would later be identified as Rajwinder Singh, a 40-year-old nurse. When he was arrested in March 2023, the long shadow of Toyah's disappearance and death attained a new, grim focus. Singh had left Australia soon after the body was found. Prosecutors say he boarded a one-way flight back to his native India. He resigned from his nursing job, stopped paying his mortgage, and seemingly disappeared, actions that would later become deeply incriminating. At trial, police would present a circumstantial but compelling case. No eyewitness saw the killing. No weapon was recovered. Yet, through forensic science, digital tracking of Toyah's phone, and his sudden departure, prosecutors argued that Singh had both motive and opportunity. One of the key threads in this case was Toyah's phone. Investigators traced its movements after her disappearance, and what they found was telling. They presented evidence that her phone pinged in areas far from the beach. More troubling, those locations matched the path of a blue Alfa Romeo, a car similar to one owned by Singh. Prosecutors say that after killing Toyah, Singh took her phone and other belongings and drove by bodies of water to dispose of them. The phone's journey, they argued, mirrored his car's route. In court, this data became a powerful piece of the puzzle. If the phone left the crime scene in sync with Singh's vehicle and then never convincingly reappeared, it suggested far more than coincidence. Perhaps the most dramatic piece of the forensic case came from DNA. At the murder scene, investigators recovered a stick, a simple piece of driftwood, unremarkable to most. But the DNA test was anything but unremarkable. The analysis showed that the genetic material on the stick was 3.8 billion times more likely to have come from Singh than from a random person. That kind of statistic towers in court, a scientific statement that tied him directly to the place where Toyah was buried.
On Monday, November 17, 2025, the trial entered a dramatic stage. The jury, the judge, and the lawyers were escorted to Wangetti Beach, the very stretch of sand where Toyah disappeared and was later found. They walked nearly 1.2 kilometers north along the beach, from the car park to the faint spot where Toyah's body had been discovered. They saw the spot where her car had reportedly been parked. Red and white cones marked those locations. This walk wasn't just a symbolic gesture. For jurors, feeling the isolation, sensing the remoteness, understanding how easy it would be for someone to be alone, it was an opportunity to understand the crime scene in a way that testimony and photos cannot fully convey. The tropical heat bore down on the group. Even the judge, Justice Lincoln Crowley, wore casual clothes. The physical journey into that place where Toyah's life ended added emotional weight to everything the court would later hear. Prosecutors, led by Crown Counsel Nathan Crane, painted a picture of premeditation, betrayal, and flight. They argued that Singh confronted Toyah on the beach, possibly in a moment of conflict. He stabbed her repeatedly, they say, then buried her in a shallow grave, concealing her body under the sand. They highlighted the disappearance of her phone, her belongings, her clothes. These actions, they said, suggested that Singh had planned to cover his tracks.
The movement of her phone matched the route of a car like Singh's. The DNA on the stick placed him at the scene. And then there was the behavior after. Singh's sudden return to India, the termination of his job, his seemingly permanent break from his life in Australia. All of that, prosecutors argued, added up to one inescapable conclusion. He had killed her and fled. In his opening remarks, Singh's defense attorney, Greg McGuire, painted a very different picture of his client. He described Singh as a placid and caring man, a nurse, a father, someone who had built a life and who was now being wrongly blamed for a terrible tragedy. McGuire indicated that Singh might testify that he witnessed two masked men attacking Toyah rather than being the perpetrator himself. He suggested Singh was telling this to an undercover officer after his arrest, though this claim remains disputed.
Singh's defense doesn't focus on an elaborate alibi so much as on misidentification and the possibility of other suspects. The stick, the phone, the connections, they argue, are not definitive proof that Singh was the killer. Beyond the courtroom battles and forensic data lies a deeply personal tragedy. Toyah was not just a crime victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a young woman who worked at an organic food store. She had friends, ambitions, a life that mattered. Her father, Troy, found her body. For him, every grain of sand on that beach became a heartbreak. To lose your child is devastating enough. To find them buried in the sand under a mound you only discovered because you refused to stop looking, it's unimaginable. Her mother, her family, her friends, all have felt the weight of absence every day since. Her dog Indy, left tied to a tree, remains a haunting symbol of her last moments. For Singh, if he is innocent, the defense asks the jury to imagine an innocent man caught in a nightmare. But for many, his departure after her death, his ties to the physical evidence, and the DNA on that stick form a narrative that demands accountability. This isn't Singh's first trial. At the first attempt, jurors were unable to reach a unanimous verdict. Now, in the retrial, everything is on the line. Forensic experts, witness testimony, the imagery of the beach, and Singh's own words. Jurors must decide, did Singh kill Toyah Cordingley on that beach? Did he conceal her body? Did he flee because he was guilty or because he feared being wrongly accused? The stakes are immense, the evidence complex, and the emotions raw. This case raises fundamental questions about justice, memory, and how we reconstruct truth. How does a jury weigh circumstantial evidence, DNA on a stick, a phone's location, a suspect's flight, against the possibility of reasonable doubt? What does it mean to bring jurors to the actual crime scene, to let them feel the sand, hear the waves, see how remote the place really is? How do you hold someone criminally responsible when direct eyewitnesses are missing, and only fragments of evidence remain. For the Cordingley family, the trial is not just about guilt or innocence. It's about closure, about the faint hope that justice will bring peace, even if it can never bring Toyah back. And for the community, it's a bitter reminder that violence can strike in the most unexpected places, even on the serene shores of an Australian beach. The retrial continues. Witnesses will testify. Experts will return to the stand. The jurors will revisit evidence, and new questions may emerge.
If Singh is convicted, it will be the culmination of years of pain, loss, and family grief. If he is acquitted, it will leave many wondering if the true killer remains free. And regardless of the verdict, the story of Toyah Cordingley, her life, her death, and the long road to justice will be remembered. Her name will not fade. Her memory matters. If this case really gripped you, please subscribe, like, and share this video. For more in-depth crime investigations and real stories from around the world, you're in the right place. Thanks for watching Crime Scoop with Sam. We'll see you next time.